This audio recording is titled Impermanence, the Coming and Going of Everything. So I want to talk about change. And as I was thinking about impermanence or change, a childhood memory of mine floated to the surface. It is one of the first times that I can remember being aware of change and my reaction to change and other people's reaction to change. The memory centers around a pair of pants. These pants were awesome. They were bright red, white, and blue with stars and stripes on them. Big stars, big stripes. It was 1976. And at 10 years old, these were my favorite pants. They were bell bottoms and they were super colorful. I loved these pants and was so excited the day my mom bought them for me. I wore them and wore them and wore them. And then the day came. I'm not sure if it was 3 months later or 6 months later or 9 months or even a year later, but I didn't like them anymore. I don't really know why, and I don't really remember what led to the change of my attitude, but I remember taking my pants to my mom and telling her that she could go ahead and give them to someone else now. I remember the look on her face. She couldn't believe it. These were my favorite pants after all. She probed. She tried to figure out if there was something wrong, if something had happened. And then I wondered maybe something was wrong with me. I found the whole experience a bit perplexing. Maybe I should still like these pants. Why did I not like these pants? In the end, I think I was mostly baffled. But what I was not left with was a relaxed sense that change happens. With all the resistance my mom and I had, it really is a fact. Change happens. Change is constant. Our likes change, our tastes change. In fact, this very being we call me is constantly in flux. Did you know that within a 7-year period, every cell in your body changes? So why is it then that when we become aware of change so often, we react to it? At times with disbelief, and at other times with blame, sometimes towards ourselves and sometimes towards others. And I will say, life has an interesting way of tending to move along in a fairly predictable way, which tends to support our delusion of stability and can even blind us to the fact of moment-to-moment change. This illusion of predictability and stability is quite seductive, and I would say most of us are indeed seduced. Intellectually, I think we can all agree that we are aware of the big changes in the earth, in the seasons. We know that winter will become spring and that spring will become summer and summer will become fall. We also are aware of the big changes that we all face. We all get older, we will all get sick, and we will all face death. We know these things will happen during the course of a lifetime, and yet, even so, when these things do happen, most of us at some point will move into the question of why. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to the person I love? We also use rationalization to look at what could we have done differently for aging, sickness, and death not to occur, or at least not at this time. We often find ourselves going into denial even. So even though intellectually we can kind of agree that these big changes happen in life, on a deeper level, on a more emotional, spiritual level, even these big changes can be hard to accept. There is a Hindu epic called Mahabharata, and in this, Yudhishthira is asked, "What is the greatest wonder in this world?" To which she replies, "People see death all around them, but do not believe they're going to die themselves. This is the greatest wonder." We crave stability and we resist change. It's our human nature. Joseph Goldstein, the American Buddhist teacher, reminds us that when the mind is free of this clinging and craving of stability, then the mind is aware of impermanence, and there is no suffering. In fact, acknowledging and accepting impermanence can lead to compassion for ourselves and others during some of our most vulnerable times, such as when we are sick or when we are actively dying. Some of you may be familiar with Pema Chodron, the American Buddhist nun who has written so many beautiful books. In her book, The Places That Scare You, she talks about what an aversion we have to impermanence. She says, we know that all is impermanent. We know that everything wears out. Although we can buy this truth intellectually, emotionally we have a deep-rooted aversion to it. We want permanence. We expect permanence. Our natural tendency is to seek security. We believe we can find it. To put it concisely, we suffer when we resist the noble and irrefutable truth of impermanence, and we expect that what is always changing should be able to be grasped and should be able to be predictable. We are born with a craving for resolution and security that governs our thoughts, words, and actions. We are like a people in a boat that is falling apart, trying to hold on to the water. Another great Buddhist teacher, the Vietnamese teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, wrote in his book, The Heart of Buddhist Teaching, "We need to learn to appreciate the value of impermanence. If we are in good health and are aware of impermanence, we will take good care of ourselves. When we know that the person we love isn't permanent, we will cherish our beloved all the more. And impermanence teaches us to respect and value every moment and all the precious things around us and inside of us." So in fact, it's not by resisting impermanence, as Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us. It's by appreciating impermanence that we can find the extraordinariness of every moment. And yes, at times we really are aware that the most beautiful things that we can see are the very ones that we cannot hold on to and do not last very long. A beautiful sunset, a shooting star, a particular smile on our loved one's face. Indeed, life is a constantly moving target. We can delight in moments such as the ones just mentioned. And at the same time, to some degree, the fact that life is constantly changing can create a sense of unsatisfactoriness. As we begin to pay close attention and to notice the ever-changing aspect of life and our propensity to resist and deny change, we begin to cultivate insight into the nature of our own human suffering. This insight is not going to unfold overnight. or even in one sitting or two sittings, or even a long retreat. This insight into the ever-changing quality of life is cultivated over years. Years of seeing clearly, both on the cushion and in life. This insight begins happening in those moments where we find ourselves already reactive, already caught in resistance and protest to whatever is happening, is changing. And then we have that aha moment in which insight is born. We see our confusion and we can begin to work with the only thing we've ever been able to work with, our own mind. And this type of thing happens over and over across the years. Change happens, we resist, we protest, we complain, and then the aha, and then the acceptance, and then the letting go, over and over. And this process of coming to terms with change and coming to accept change, this letting go, can be assisted in our formal meditation practice. As we sit, we can move from this understanding of these larger changes to an awareness of moment-to-moment change. How this happens: we sit, we bring our awareness to our breath, and we begin to notice how the air becomes the breath. How one breath ends and there's a gap before the next breath begins. We listen to the sounds, we hear the sounds near and far, and we become aware of the silence between the sounds. A sound arises that we think will never end, and then it ends. We become aware of a sensation in our body, and as we connect and pay close attention, we notice how it changes moment to moment. And as we cultivate the ability to observe our thoughts, we begin to see how thought arises and passes, and often arises with no permission or input from ourselves. Thought is simply energy and information passing through the mind. Over the months and years through our dedicated practice, resting in impermanence, this acceptance becomes more frequent. We cultivate the ability to accept change. So, this week, I invite you to begin to bring a deeper awareness to the impermanent nature of all phenomena. As you sit in choiceless awareness and open up to the flow of life, see if you can really open up to the flow. The constant, ever-changing flow, moment to moment. I look forward to hearing about your experience.